right, good morning. I'm here with Rudy Ruckman and David Benaim. I'm so excited to see you. You've both just been freed from Nigeria. You captured on July 9th in the morning from synagogue, taken to DSS State Prison. How does it feel to be back?
I mean, always when you come to Israel, it's all of a sudden that you can come and breathe. For me, when I'm out of Israel, it's like I'm holding my breath. And finally I come to Israel and I can breathe again. But additional, on top of the usual experience when you're coming home, we just went through 3 weeks in a cage, locked up, for no reason. We did nothing wrong. We just came there to show the stories of the Jewish life in Nigeria, the Igbos. And although we weren't able to do our full project, we're still not going to stop, and we're still going to show their stories and showcase so that they get recognition and people understand who they are. But obviously we're very tired and very happy to be back home.
Yeah, it's amazing to be home. It never felt that amazing to say that we are back home in Israel. For somebody that just met Aliyah a few years ago, it has a lot more sense. But we feel great. We are very thankful about all the people that really worked tirelessly to help us being back home today after 19 days of captivity, 20 days I think we would say for the full period. But yeah, it's amazing to be back home.
Why did you go to Nigeria first?
Yeah, so our first season is on Africa, and so we have 6 different countries across Africa, each with different and unique different stories. Nigeria is just the biggest story. It's just the most amazing community that's very different than the others. There are 50 million Igbos that they estimate, and it's just the biggest story, so that's the one that we wanted to start with first.
David, can you speak a little bit about what it took to release you?
It took a lot of effort from 3 different kind of chancelleries, embassies, French, American and Israelis, that worked really in coordination. Each of them had their roles, and we can't discuss every single details. First of all, we have to learn all the details because we were kept secret from a lot of it during the time we were there, because we had no means of communication most of the time. The families were really involved in back channels to be able to help us get out. Finally, kind of quickly when you look at similar stories, but we were helped with a lot of forces. One of the first that I would like to mention particularly that was able to provide food for us and a lot of emunah, a lot of faith all the time, is the Chabad of Nigeria. Israel Uzon was there from the 5th or the 6th day of captivity, helping us, bringing us food, helping us bring food as well to one of the women that was held captive with us. So yeah, it's pretty amazing to know that there is the regular diplomacy and there is the Chabad diplomacy, so that's pretty good.
Now, I understand that when you were taken by about a dozen men in ski masks. Yes, and now we have Noam. Thank you so much. You are the 3rd person who was taken into custody by the DSS. Thank you for joining us on camera. First of all, how are you feeling, actually?
I'm feeling good. I'm happy to be back home in Israel, but it's also bittersweet because we really did want to continue our project, and we really tried every possible way to stay in Nigeria right now and continue with the rest of our itinerary. But unfortunately, it wasn't possible now, but we're not giving up for the future.
All right, so what I was asking is, you were taken into custody by about a dozen armed men in ski masks in the morning of Friday prayer. Did you know you were being arrested?
No, so they told us that we're being invited and that we'd have a quick conversation with the chief just to clear some things up. We had an idea that it had to do with certain posts that were going viral the night before, that we clearly made a statement that we had nothing to do with such movements, we had nothing to do with any sort of separatist things. And they told us we would go for a quick meeting, take 30 minutes, we'd come back to our hotel. In fact, all of our stuff was open in our hotel rooms. We ended up staying there the entire night, and then the next morning they wake us up from sleeping on the floor. They stuff us back with the black ski masks at gunpoint into cars, and they took us 9-hour drive to Abuja, a very dangerous drive, just swerving and speeding all over. And then we find ourselves 20 days locked up in a cage over there, and at no point were we actually even arrested. They didn't tell us they were accused of something, they didn't tell us you're officially arrested of something, and their status of invited is what allows them to not allow us to have a lawyer, not allow us to have a phone call, not allow us to have any rights, because we're there at our own will. But several times we try to say, okay, so if we're here at our will, then let us go. And they said, no, if you go, then we'll stop you. And we tried a few times, and they, again, jumped on us and threw us back into the cage. There's actually one time that me and Noam put our tefillin on and just walked out to the lobby and started saying, we're innocent, let us out. We made a scene for all the people there, even civilians that were walking into their headquarters, and 10 people came on us, threw us back into the elevator and threw us back into the cage. So we really tried to do everything to get out, but I didn't have my phone the whole time. I didn't have a phone call the whole time. I didn't speak to my family. I didn't speak to anybody. So, the first 5 days were the hardest because we didn't even know if people knew about us. We didn't even know if people knew we were gone. We didn't know what was going on. It was just one moment where we're there with the community. The night before, we were really like having a sort of meeting with everyone. We're talking, we're going up like late and discussing, and then the next morning all of a sudden we find ourselves in prison.
So I want to know, you mentioned Chabad, David. Do you have any other maybe special words to say to the services that they provided you? Andrew, Noam, I want to hear from you a little bit more as well.
Sure. So our initial hope when we were in the dark, not knowing if anybody knew what had happened to us, was that reaching out to Chabad was going to be our only way of letting them know that we were actually being detained, and then that the word could spread that way. So, we were adamant that we really were not going to eat anything other than, some bread that they gave us for the first 5 days until we got kosher food. And I think that had a big role in, keeping our morale up and making this all worth something in the end.
So, what's next for We Were Never Lost, I should say, because I understand that even though your visa has not expired, you're not returning to Nigeria anytime soon.
Yeah, we still hope to at some point go back to Nigeria. We understand that right now, due to the circumstances, maybe with this regime we won't be able to, but we do have a decent amount of footage. We can still tell a story. There are Igbos here in Israel that we can document. There are other ways of getting the story out, and the point is not just to make a film. The film's point is to get this story out for people to recognize and for their stories to be told. So there are many ways of doing that. We're going to find the way, and there are other countries we still need to go to in Africa to finish the season, and we're going to be doing that.
And We Were Never Lost is not a one-trip story. It's 6 episodes each season for a different continent every time. So we really are going to do Africa, finish all the different countries we want to visit in Africa, discover all these communities that are lost to our consciousness, and then we are going to go to Asia, South America, Europe, and the Middle East. And so we are going to make We Were Never Lost something that's very important for the Jewish people and for the world to know about the Jewish people all around the world.
So, if we can continue, if you don't mind, I'd love to know, I want to get into a little bit more depth. First of all, you mentioned that your treatment was inhumane. We heard rumor that one of you was injured and needed... Yes.
We were not captured in the synagogue.
Oh, not in the synagogue.
We were getting ready from our hotel room, and they just said, you have to come downstairs. There's police downstairs. So we were just getting our stuff ready. Our bags weren't even yet closed. We go downstairs, and all these men with guns, actually, it's ironic, they had Tavors, Israeli guns, and they had black ski masks, and their chief, who's named Casey, comes and says, don't worry, everything's good, you're invited, you're not arrested, you're just coming for a quick little interview, and everything's going to be done within 30 minutes. And, for us, we didn't want to cause any problems, so we went, and, we found ourselves for 20 days locked up.
I want to add quick that, when we initially were taken in, we were very calm because we understood that there was a miscommunication that happened. And coming from Israel, we can understand if a country is going to take their national security seriously. But we figured once we go in, explain our story, show them our footage, it's going to be cleared up very quickly. And that's when we didn't get any information. They just continued to hold us there. After the investigation finished, we were just continually held with no reason, with no understanding of what was going on.
So I understand that one of you was actually let go. I believe it was you for medical treatment on condition that you be returned.
Yeah, and I was returned many times. So I was taken under the custody of the French embassy, locked for a few days, but I had to go back many times for interrogations, and every time I had to go back to the DSS headquarters, my heart was beating very hard, and I had no idea if I was going to be held again, if I was able to see the boys. It was every single time a very, very emotional and strong moment to return to this facility. It is a prison. It is jail. It's something where that you won't have access to diplomacy, to people. So returning there was always an exercise that's I don't wish anyone.
May I ask what constituted their version of I guess their treatment and their interrogation? What were they looking for? What were they asking?
Well, the thing is, there's a movement in Nigeria trying to free the South. That's what they call it. They call it Biafra. There was actually a civil war back in the 60s and they failed, and so a large portion of the Nigerian population are called Igbos, and prior to the British they were actually separate. They were their own people, and the British kind of united different ethnic groups and created a country called Nigeria. Now there are different movements within Nigeria trying to separate and create their own autonomous regions, and these Igbos, a lot of them identify as being Jewish, and there is a state for the Jewish people, it's Israel, so some of those people also wave Israel flags, and when they do certain protests and talk about freeing their country and their land, which again we have nothing to do with, they associate that to Israel. So all of a sudden you have Israelis coming saying that they want to do a documentary on the Igbos. For us it was documenting Jewish life experiences, culture, aspirations, and then you have some bloggers saying, oh, finally Israel's here to help us to free Biafra and all sorts of things that, you know, obviously were not true, and the government comes and out of nowhere just takes us away. But I think they knew from the very beginning that we had nothing to do with that. It's very clear. We had made public posts that we had nothing to do with these extremist things. I mean, what our project was doing has been live and public for a year, and we've kind of got the experience in Nigeria that everything takes very, very long, you know, very, very slow. And it just so happens that everything on Friday morning, very early in the morning, we were taken, and, you know, things happened very quickly. So in our opinion, it was an attempt to silence the voices and the stories of the Igbos, to not allow us to do our project. And it's unfortunate. If we had seen it, you know, when we look back in hindsight, maybe we shouldn't have posted that we were there in the first place, so we could actually capture this video. But no one could have seen that this would happen, and we'll make sure not to do that again. But in terms of the inhumane conditions, I mean, I can tell you we were put into a cage that was like a round room that you can maybe take 3-4 steps in each direction. That's how small it was. We slept on the floor. There were like bottles of urine from previous inmates that had left there that couldn't go to the bathroom. There was no AC for the majority of the time. Mosquitoes, bugs everywhere. There was no light. We were just in the dark, in heat, sweating on the floor, and this is how we would sleep. And they would keep us there until they would want to ask us questions, and we complied with everything. We answered all their questions. We even provided them with our actual footage to show them we're not here to do anything political, anything controversial. To the contrary, we want to show a positive image of Nigeria. This is going to show more of a different side that hasn't been told. But obviously they didn't care about that, and I think that there are people within different political positions that don't want the story of the Igbos to be told, but that's not going to stop us from telling it.
So, Noam, I want to come back to you. You're the man behind the camera. What was your experience with the Igbo people, you know, as a third party, almost?
I'm going to wait for that because I know how there's just one thing that I don't know if we touched on, and it's that with the articles that were being shared upon our arrival, when people used our images, they completely fabricated a story. They said that the leader of this movement had prophesied that when a Sefer Torah arrives in Nigeria, that'll be like the revival of their movement, when in reality there's already, to my knowledge, at least a dozen Sefer Torot in Nigeria. So they basically saw what we were doing and said, oh, we prophesied this, and created this fake narrative, and the government bought the narrative, and even when we presented them with all the evidence and they couldn't find anything to hold us, it still continued on.
It's possible the government made the narrative themselves.
We don't know, because we never got answers. Even when we were released, we never got answers as to why we were held, what they really were looking for, you know, what the problems were. We were left completely in the dark. Go ahead.
Slicha.
You're good.
Slicha.
We're back in Israel.
We're back in Israel.
But I do want to say quickly, you know, we had spoken with many individuals who had come to Nigeria and visited the Igbo Jews, and they were saying that it's like people are skeptical about their Jewish identity. Is it real? And we were told that when you get there, you feel it, you see it, you experience it. The way they treat each other, the way they talk about Torah, their seriousness and their dedication. It's not some sham that they're just doing as a cover. It's very real. And so even though we only had 48 hours with them, we all felt it. We really connected with them. And, you know, it gave us a taste that we really want to learn more.
Yeah, I mean, he said it perfectly. Like, these communities are actually Jewish within their neshama. Now, we can't prove historically, genetically, because those studies haven't been done. It's possible that they actually do descend from the tribes of Israel, but we don't know. But the reality is that they do see themselves as Jews. They do practice Judaism. They do see themselves as a part of Am Yisrael. And our goal in this whole project is to tell their story.
And you know, your question was to Noam, what did he feel being behind the camera and something is happening to him and he cannot, he was extremely frustrated because every single second that we could not shoot was something that was lacking of the story we wanted to say. for the first 4 days, like, he was still hoping that we would get out and be able to like go in the country to film. And how are we going to make up for the time we lost being like caged instead of being able to tell the story? And as a journalist, I feel the same way. At some point when we became the story, we kind of like lost the purpose of us going to tell the story. So that's why Rudy said next time we will probably not post on social media during our filming, because yes, we have to focus on like telling the story of the people we are going to visit. Yeah.
Rudy, can you quickly give some context about Lisbon?
So I was just going to say, speaking of I'm a Lisbon, I'd like to know about the fourth person who was taken into custody by the DSS. Thank you for reminding me. Tell me about I'm a Lisbon.
So it's Ima Lisbon. She's a mother of many children, many of them that we met, that we spent time with. Beautiful souls, beautiful people. She's not just the mother of children. She's also basically a mother for the whole community. She's one of the leaders there. She took us in. She hosted us. She gave us food. She said, whatever you need, I'll be there for you. She took us to see an Igbo king. We were supposed to do a ceremony. She bought me like a whole Igbo gown. And she's really the caretaker for this community and the rock and the glue that keeps them all together. Unfortunately, when we were taken, she was taken along with us. She was with us for the first 24 hours when we were still in Anambra State. When we were taken to Abuja, she was taken with us in the car ride. And as soon as we got there, they separated us from her. Now, every single time that we received food from Chabad, we separated a third of that food or a fourth of that food. And when we were 3, when we were 2, we did a third. And we gave her that, and we made sure that the DSS officers gave her the food so that she can eat, because she's a Jewish woman and she also needs to eat. When we were released, we spoke with Chabad to make sure that they would continue to provide them food and to continue allowing her to be able to be fed, because the conditions there are just horrible, and we can go more in depth to that at a later time. But yeah, I saw her one time while we were there, because they keep women in a different building. She was on her way to go see the doctor. I rushed, gave her a hug, asked her if she's okay. She said, I'm okay, but I'm not feeling too well, so I'm going to see the doctor. And since then, we haven't been able to see her, but we've constantly asked the DSS officers, how is she? But we can't believe anything that they tell us. So, we really don't know her situation now. So we really want to, now that we're free, not that, it should have been us first and her next, but the reality is that we were free first. She's still there. She's still in their custody. She's still being detained for no reason. And we'd like to spread awareness of her story and the importance of who she is for the community, and for her to be freed as well, to go back to her family.
So I want to say, what are you planning next? I know that these efforts to free Ima Lisbon, but also to continue this project of We Were Never Lost. Are you planning to continue this trip anytime soon, or maybe to take a breather now after this ordeal?
So when I joined the army, I learned the hard way in Israel, that no means try harder. So the fact that they put us in a prison cell, in a cage for 20 days is not going to push us backwards. It's only going to push us forward. We're going to take this energy, we're going to take what we went through, and we're going to go make something out of it. We're going to continue in different countries, Madagascar, Uganda, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Ethiopia. Those are the rest of the countries we need to go in Africa. Maybe, we'll be able to go to Nigeria. We always have hopes, but it looks like for the time being we won't be able to. But even if we won't, we still captured enough to show something to the world. Maybe not a full episode, maybe something that's 10 minutes long. Maybe if we film other people here that are Igbo in Israel and also tell the story of what we went through and add kind of like an episode that kind of mixes both, that can be an episode. But no matter what, we're going to still do this project, and Africa is just the first season. So
any special messages for anybody who helped get you out, who helped organize at the embassy, at Chabad, your family, in the Igbo population?
Yeah, first of all, the Igbo population that welcomed us with really open arms the first few days we were there. Every single embassies that were involved, really, thanks to our families that worked days and nights. So definitely, and Chabad, that was the little touch, the supplement of love that brought us family there, and that was pretty impressive. But I left with 2 friends, and I'm back with 2 brothers, so that's also something very impressive.
Yeah, look, the embassies did a ton on our behalf. From the moment they found out that we were taken into custody, they worked nonstop. Israeli, American, and French, all working together with our families, speaking to them every day. So they really helped us feel that at least we had a backing, and although we couldn't make any noise ourselves being trapped in a cage, that we had political individuals, diplomats that were doing that for us and helping spread what we were experiencing to our families.
Yeah, and in addition to that, I'm sure there's a lot of people around the world that prayed for us, that gave us positive energy, that shared our message, that tried to speak out about us, and it's very important because in those moments, we don't have any power. We can't speak, we can't talk, we can't go to anywhere. We're really locked somewhere, and we're just looking at ourselves. I can't tell you how many times me and Noam looked at ourselves like, how are we here? Like, how did this happen? We're like behind bars and we're just looking outside like, how did we even get here? And so it's important that whenever someone's in this situation in the future, currently I'm sure there's other people that are falsely in prison. I know one of your friends is still needs to be freed in Turkey for some false accusations as well, that we are there for them because they can't be there for themselves.
All right. Thank you so much again, David, Rudy, Noam. It was so amazing that you invited us here to meet you when you came out, and I'm so happy that you're free. It was very hard not to speak more about your captivity. We wanted to. We were asked to try and keep a low profile, and yeah.
It's very important what you're saying, because now that we've been out for a few hours, like we've seen how much false information were spread. We were taken because of false information being spread. So before you share anything out there, be careful. Make sure that you get the information right. And like we were like for real, like a collateral damage of fake news. So at some point, like, make sure that even during captivity, like, we had so many things. People said so many false information. So please be careful. Don't spread any false information.
Thank you so much.